Now the good stuff, baby. Michael Penix and Jim Harbaugh. Do you know that, to my knowledge, Michael Penix can become the first quarterback to beat Jim Harbaugh's Wolverines at two different schools? After knocking them off in 2020 at Indiana, 37-21 or 38-21, I believe it was. He threw for 3 touchdowns, 342 yards in that game, and he is far improved now. He has much better weapons around him. I think that this could be a very exciting game from completely polar positions of these teams. I mean, Michigan is just going to try to run all over Washington, and they're not great on the run. But yet, let me tell you, watching Michael Penix throw some of the throws he makes, I'm like, gee whiz, that thing's like a laser-guided missile.
Well, he's an amazing passer. He really is. And his receivers are terrific. They made some terrific catches yesterday. I would say that it really, to me, it comes down to whether Washington can protect Michael at a reasonable rate. Like, he's going to get sacked. I mean, he's not getting out of there with no sacks. The Michigan D-line is too good, and the Washington O-line is just leaky enough because certainly we saw Texas players get pressure on Michael last night. Michigan's D-line is much better than Texas's. So he's going to get sacked. A couple things have to happen. One, when he gets hit, he can't get hurt. Two, when he gets hit, he can't turn it over. And three, when he doesn't get hit, then he's going to have to turn out those big plays. Because he's going to need a few of those long ones to loosen up what Michigan's able to do defensively and maybe create some avenues for the running game. We don't know whether or not Washington's best running backs, we don't know his status. We saw him get hurt on the final scrimmage play for UW last night. There was a lot of criticism of Kalen DeBoer for not taking the knee after the game. I thought they should have, but football coaches don't think like that. If you can't turn out the clock, if you can't run it out all the way to zero with the 3 or 4 takings of the knee, I should say. If you can't run out the clock with that, they're not doing it. I see it in the NFL every week. They just don't think that way. The safe thing to do, because it doesn't risk turning the ball over and because it doesn't risk injury, as it turned out, and therefore a clock stoppage, and therefore giving the other team a chance to catch a punt and be interfered with and get 15 yards up the field, et cetera, et cetera. The safe thing to do is take the knees. If you want to take a couple extra seconds, you can wiggle around a little bit before you take it. But at the end of the day, especially because they tried the onside kick there, your field position was going to be good. So I thought that was the way to go. But as I said, I think some of the things I read on Twitter last night were harsher than that. Like I said, I thought they should have, but lots of people are calling it coaching malpractice and this and that. It's not. It's standard issue. It's what coaches do. If you can't get the ball back, if I take a knee, they're taking a knee. But if you can get it back, they're going to try for that first down. It's the way coaches are wired.
Yeah, and man, it unfortunately is probably going to possibly going to come back to bite them a little bit, because the way it didn't sound good listening to Kalen last night and talking about it and looking at it, but there's no point in guessing on that. They're a team that, although they are prolific passing, obviously, they've still needed and used that portion of their run game. That has been a very, very big part of their run game. They get some nice yardage from him.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not necessarily easy to replace. We'll see what they have behind him because we didn't see it a lot last night. They were pretty reliant on their regular group. So we'll see what they have. I imagine, we saw a lot of trick plays in that game. And I think, honestly, from Washington, too many. Most of them didn't work. Some of them were nearly disastrous. But I think there are ways that you can do clever things, not just out and out trick plays, but different formations, different usages that you can maybe scheme up in that week, or that you worked on during that month that you had off. There may be some things that they can bring out that can disguise a little bit whatever impact there is to the running game.
Yeah, and looking forward to what it's going to be like to see Washington take on this Michigan team. Of course, some familiarity. Not only do you have a former Indiana quarterback going up against Jim Harbaugh, you've got two former Indiana quarterbacks, teammates that are on opposite sides. You got the number 1 quarterback for Washington and the number 2 quarterback for Michigan. I mean, has that ever happened? I know it's probably been a short window because of all the things that have allowed those things to happen now, but I don't think that that's ever happened before in a national championship game. It's nuts.
It is an amazing coincidence. And especially, I mean, let's be honest, coming from Indiana, which has not been exactly a football factory, it's pretty amazing that that would be the case. But
and they got AJ Barner on Michigan, who is a big part of their offense.
Let me ask you this: when you were watching last night's game, how much of you said to yourself that the wrong player got the Heisman Trophy? Because he was extraordinary under the.
I've been at Penix. I was on Penix all year long.
I know. I'm just sort of reminding you of why they got it wrong.
I also wonder, though, and this is the difference, is Odunze, I know you're a big fan of Marvin Harrison Jr. What differentiates him from, say, Romeo Odunze?
Well, I think what differentiates is explosion after the catch to an extent. I think Odunze is an amazing receiver, but he doesn't have the physical tools that Marvin has, the size, the length.
He definitely does not have the pedigree, baby.
There are only so many that have that. But I think Odunze is a phenomenal player and a worthy All-American. He was terrific last night. The catch he made down the center of the field, I don't know how players do that. I really don't. I mean, he's being held, he's being chopped at, and the ball is coming from 50 yards away over his shoulder, and he finds it and catches it. That's one of the things in sports that I really don't comprehend how it gets done. It's all, when I watch it happen, I'm constantly amazed that players can do that. But he did, and he was phenomenal. And I was reminded as well. I wonder what you thought of this when Washington was interfered with on that long pass. I hear people all the time say that PI should be a spot foul in the NFL. And I saw that play and I'm like, absolutely, it should stay as it is. Because why not just whack at the guy when you're beaten? And that's exactly what Texas did. They just said, we're beaten. If I let this go, it's 50 yards. If I hit him, it's 15. We'll take the 15. It's the ultimate in taking the lesser of two evils, so to speak.
Absolutely.